Recently I was sick. I just like ate pizza. Like I just ordered a pizza and just had pizza. And then I just felt amazing after. It was like the whole illness was gone and just cheese and pepperoni. Just, that was it. That's all I needed. None of this
Maybe we were just hungry.
cough medicine stuff.
Yeah, or there's something in the pizza which is good for you.
Yeah, mozzarella. Yeah, that's the active ingredient.
You just had low blood sugar and you just needed to eat something. Pizza was there?
That sounds too logical. I like my I was sick idea. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Pizza helps cure cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
Not a doctor.
That's it. Greetings and fist bumps. This is The Raised Eyebrow, a podcast that talks about the in humans. Because someone's got to do it. And we're your hosts, Kojo, Alex, and Mike. In this episode, we talk about fairy tales, or more specifically, what would happen if our favorite fairy tales took place in real life. Chances are pretty strong that it wouldn't be all gooey hearts and rainbows. Sorry, Disney fans. This one's going to get silly. Hey, gents.
All right.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a pitch meetings episode. So we're just going to pitch a bunch of ideas, go around the table. I'll start, I guess. Is that cool?
Yeah. Get in there. So explain
I'll explain the concept
that we're trying
first,
to go for.
And then we'll get into it. So we will take one of your beloved fairy tales, and we will retell the story without fairy godmothers or magic or witches or any kind of like just imagination at all. Just if it was just like plain as day, what would happen in real life if this thing actually took place?
Our take on it.
Yeah. Starting with Cinderella. So, my opinion was, this is the one that kind of triggered everything. So, in my opinion, she's kind of like this like wannabe influencer, and she kind of like connects with like this weird old lady where she gets drugs. That's the fairy godmother, and then she ends up crashing this party, and crashes the party. She's like really high, really drunk the whole time, and then the only evidence that's left behind is the shoe, which she kind of goes back. Then the prince kind of goes back and looks for the only suspects using the only piece of evidence that they have and tracking her down. And that is realistically what happens in Cinderella, minus all the magic. Yeah.
See it. Bravo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What do you make of the pumpkin carriage?
Uber.
Mid-millennium Uber.
Yeah, like that's probably what it is. It's just like I don't know, some guy probably just like picked them up in like a Toyota or something, and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just
Alrighty.
crashed some party.
She just imagined it as a pumpkin or something.
Yeah, she just crashed a party in like Beverly Hills with some rich kids.
Yeah.
She did some hard drugs and started hallucinating
Yeah.
Ubers as pumpkins.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go next. I looked at Snow White, and like while researching this, I looked at all the original stories. So a lot of them were written by the Brothers Grimm, and like they're all pretty dark. Like all the Disney adaptations are so sweet and beautiful and blah blah blah, but the real stories, if you actually read them, I'm not going to spoil anything, but Pinocchio never doesn't become a real boy, and Cinderella wasn't the Brothers Grimm, but Little Mermaid, all these Scandinavian fairy tales, different endings, that's for sure. But getting back to Snow White, the real life story that the book was written about or based on, it's according to Mental Floss, it's based on the life of von Weldick, who lived in a German town in the mid-1500s. And when she was 17, she left her father's home, perhaps due to friction with her new stepmother. And then she moved to Brussels in Belgium, and there she attracted the eye of Spain's King Philip II. And then soon thereafter, she fell ill, and it's because many believe she was poisoned, just like the apple in Snow White. And then the couple had their fair share of detractors because she was a coal miner's daughter, which was thought to be beneath a king back in the 1500s. So there was no true love's kiss to cure her, and she died at 21. But looking at Snow White, what would happen in real life if she lived with 12 dwarfs? In my opinion, I don't think it would work. Not because they're dwarfs. All respect to dwarfs. It's because she's living with 7 dudes who are adult men, and she would hate their guts and probably go nuts by the end of the first week of that happening. So I just don't see that roommate story working out very smoothly. And then doing other research on here's what where I trailed off into a rabbit hole. Into a nice Snow White conspiracy theory. So there's a theory on the interweb that Snow White is based on cocaine addiction.
What?
So here's the theory. I know. Hear me out now. So this is from Reddit.
The twist.
So many people believe that Snow White may actually be a representation of cocaine addiction. The argument is that Snow White is an obvious reference to the drug, which is famous for its snow or white appearance and is often called snow on the streets. They also state that the 7 dwarfs can be seen as the 7 stages of addiction. So we'll go through them here. Happy, cocaine puts you in a euphoric state of mind at first, and it's all happy when you first start. Then there's sneezy. Sneezing is a major symptom with cocaine users. Then you got sleepy. You become sleepy from doing cocaine. And then you get bashful. When you do cocaine, you go into withdrawal after the initial high, and it leads to a feeling of isolation and depression, and general feeling of wanting to stay away from other people, just like bashful in the movie. And then you have dopey, because that's what happens to cocaine users. They get all goofy. And then grumpy. After a while, when you're on a cocaine high, you get angry. And then doc, it represents the enabler. So conspiracy theories. Check out that episode. We got to plug that in season 1, I think.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Full circle. Anyway, that's my rant. Snow White in real life.
Wait, so was she a cocaine addict that lived with 7 other people?
Yeah.
That's the theory.
Oh,
it's all
okay.
just
That makes sense.
representations of the mood of a cocaine addict.
I'll buy that, yeah.
So the roommates are not really alive. They're more of like the stages
Oh.
of addiction.
It's conceptual.
Oh, so she lives by herself, and then she lives with like these.
Right.
She lives with the stages for addiction. Okay, so where's the witch come into play then? She's the dealer. And then the apple is like this new drug that the dealer is trying to push on her, like fentanyl or something.
It might
kills her.
It might just be what she's dealing with in her personal life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She got maybe her mother-in-law was mean or something. I forget the actual relationship between the witch and it's her stepmom, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, because it's like who's the fairest of them all, and then it's like Snow White.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's like a mirror.
Yeah. She has magical powers.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe she
was
driven to addiction because.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was driven to addiction because this bitch is jealous.
Yeah. The thing I noticed about like a lot
causing
of
her
these,
problems.
as I was thinking about them, was like a lot of them kind of result with like, oh yeah, they're high, or there's drugs.
Right. Right.
I noticed that too. A lot of these fairy tales are, the conspiracy theories at least, are drug related.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Your turn,
All right.
Mojo.
Good. Yeah. So mine would be Rapunzel. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, lay down your hair. So
Nice.
This approach is a bit different. So what I tried to do was like rewrite the story. But then there are certain themes that keeps, going throughout all these stories. Like the dark forest, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Which like in our present world would pretty much be like, things that we were afraid of. Especially like the city tends to be a place that people are very scared of. For this approach, I did a little bit of a twist to it. So I kind of like attached it to a few of the things that are happening currently. So for instance, Rapunzel's parents were, like through hard times, they get arrested for selling drugs, which is a common theme. Anyway, so then the kids are now orphans, right? They need parents to take care of them. So then they get sent to an orphanage. And usually what people tend to do is like they find government programs that give them money, and then they take these kids in, but they don't pay attention to the kids. So that became my stepmother. Rapunzel grows up and discovers her singing, her gift of singing. And in our current world, if you know how to sing, where are you going to showcase your singing?
TikTok.
American Idol.
Oh.
I could have gone that route, but I didn't. I did TikTok.
Of course.
Oh, nice.
Become an influencer.
She becomes a TikTok star?
Yeah. Yeah. So for her to get a phone, like, you know, like it's a bit of like, I was like, okay, perhaps maybe she got a phone from a friend who was like, hey, you know how to sing? So here's a phone. Put yourself on TikTok. And then now she starts getting likes. So people are following her on TikTok. And then she meets a guy named Prince. Let's go with
Nice.
Prince. Prince is a producer and makes music. So initially they started conversations and then they did a few projects, but it didn't really go anywhere. So foster parents discovered that she's been posting videos on TikTok. So God gets upset and then takes away the phone from Rapunzel. So now Rapunzel is not online anymore. And Prince has been searching everywhere. It's going crazy. What happened? So we're like, what happened? Months pass. Rapunzel finds a way to escape from the orphanage and then joins a program that helped her to find work. So through work, she was able to buy a phone and then reconnect with Prince online. And then they both fall in love and start producing music and became one of the biggest producers, like music makers, better than Jay-Z and Beyonce. So that's the end of the story.
Damn, Rapunzel.
Yeah, but yours has a happy ending.
I thought you was gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
I thought you was gonna join OnlyFans or something. You can't. Don't judge her.
Yeah, no judgments. Yeah, you know, maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe just shows
Gotta do what you gotta
her
do.
crafts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Showing off her singing voice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's. I don't actually remember. I don't think I've ever seen Rapunzel, the movie.
Well, so the story is more about, she's called Rapunzel because of
Her hair, right?
Yeah, her hair.
those, the parents went to a witch who gave, the parents like, something, a flower or something. And they weren't supposed to, there's a curse or something like that. And I think that's how the witch was able to take Rapunzel away from the parents.
Oh, it's like kidnapping. Okay.
Popped her in the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Just
usually
watch
these
that.
things happen like where, you know, like parents who can't take care of their kids get taken into orphanage programs.
Mm-hmm. Watch
this-
Tangled. I think that's based on Rapunzel,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So yeah, like I was trying to like go around that, you know. And even when she was singing on top of the tower, which the tower happens to be always in the forest, which is very scary. So this time it's in the city. But then she was singing in the tower and the prince comes, hears the sound and then comes and then would let Rapunzel lay down her hair and then she climb up. He would climb up.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, you know, they became like, you know, they fell in love, but then the mom takes Rapunzel away from the guy.
He's committed
Searches
at this
for Rapunzel and then
He just
they
like stalks her
reconnect.
though, right? He stalks
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. He stalks her, and it's kind of creepy though, right? Like this, I don't know. She has like this guy stalking her online, and she's like, you know, kidnapped. Could like potentially be like, I don't know, human trafficking's involved here.
It's funny because I mentioned earlier that a lot of these are like people are offended by a lot of the. So I'll give you an example. Sleeping Beauty. People got offended that the prince kisses her without her consent while she's sleeping.
Oh gosh.
But if you read the real story, apparently when she wakes up, she's already pregnant. So he
Oh.
had his way with her. So, like, yeah, the real stories are pretty dark.
Wow.
Well, there was this thing that said a lot of those times when people, like became pregnant like that, you fell in love with whoever impregnated you. Like it was your duty to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of people didn't have many options either. Wasn't
true. You're saying it wasn't real love?
No. I was in university
life is a
and
lie.
we studied. It was like a children's literature class, and we studied Little Red Riding Hood. And basically, the rationale that the prof put together was that Little Red Riding Hood was like asking for it sexually, and the wolf represents like man's inner desire. And that's why he like forced himself on her, and that's essentially what Little Red Riding Hood was like a cautionary tale to young girls to like not be sexually persuasive to men.
What?
Yeah,
I thought she was looking for her grandma.
children's lit. Yep. If you have a 5-year-old, make sure you work that lesson in next time you read them Little Red Riding Hood.
Don't look for grandma in the forest.
Jeez.
I don't know what the analogy is there.
Okay. Anyways, moving on to next one. This is Aladdin. Everyone knows that story of Aladdin, right? You got the genie, Robin Williams, rest in peace. He was the greatest. So in this one, like realistically, he kidnaps Jasmine. Like if you watch the movie, he basically just like kidnaps her on this magic carpet, which in real terms would probably be just like a beat up Corolla or something, which is obviously stolen because that's the first scene in the show. And Abu and Genie are really just like his homies that kind of go along for the ride. They're accomplices in his crime, and they're like the henchmen. And Jasmine's life at home wasn't really all that much better off, really, because before she was kidnapped, her father, who was the leader of her country, was attempting to trade her hand in marriage to pay off his massive debts that he probably accumulated on the economy. And that's essentially what Jafar was like this rich person who wanted the hand in marriage. And then in exchange, you trade money, because I guess her father probably indebted his country. And so her home life was bad. She ended up getting kidnapped by this guy, Aladdin. Things weren't really all that. If you watch Aladdin, that's kind of like the way I kind of look at it. Like she doesn't really have much agency. She's just kind of like a victim at home, victim with Aladdin. Yeah.
Yep. That's why she's so angry when like the 3 dudes fight over her.
Yeah.
Her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want
She
any
wants
of them.
her freedom.
Yeah.
She's an independent woman.
It's interesting how like you can even tell the current era and how these stories were written, because it was written in that time, it made sense to them in that time. But then now we read it and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of like our modern fairy tales. Wonder how they will make sense to somebody like 50 to 100 years in the future.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right? Like
What's watching The Matrix like?
Yeah. Yeah, like the things
40
that we
years.
value. That we're scared of. Yeah. Because if you watch a movie that's like 50 years old, like the things that are seen as scary and terrifying are not scary and terrifying, really.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a weird experience. Like watching an old movie. Just from the sense of like, look how these people are acting, look what they're wearing, look at the society, the culture. It's just, it feels like a different planet, right?
Yeah. Well, the one that you could really tell quickly is comedy, right? Like, like Friends is not funny. I don't find it funny, but it's like they make like fat jokes, and there's like racial undertones in that show. And then you have like
It's the 90s.
Yeah, that's the 90s. Yeah, and then you have like The Office.
Yeah.
Which is like in the 2000s. I mean, their jokes are like very. The whole woke movement would not like that at all.
No.
Yeah.
Steve Carell was asked if they Like, are they planning on remaking The Office or continuing The Office, like a reboot? And he said he would love to, but it wouldn't work in today's world. And that was like 5 years ago. So I think we've gone a little crazier since then with the woke stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a discussion for a different podcast.
I think we've actually discussed that in another podcast. Yeah.
I think so too.
Shout out to that mystery podcast. Bonus points if you know which one I'm talking about, because I don't know.
Listen to all the podcasts so you can find that. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Okay. My second and final fairy tale that I want to talk about is Beauty and the Beast. I think most of us have seen it, right? A girl named Belle falls in love with a cursed beast. The real life story that it's based on, or that inspired it, according to a website called Refinery 29, they wouldn't lie. In 1537, there was a young boy named Petrus Gonsalves who was regularly called a beast. And reportedly, this was likely because he had a condition called hypertrichosis, which is a condition that causes a person to grow hair all over their body. And it's often referred to as werewolf syndrome. So Gonsalves was just 10 years old when he was taken from his native country of Spain, and he was sent to the King of France to operate as a type of court jester. So King Henry, who was the King of France, decided to take on Gonsalves as his little pet project, and the king groomed him to be a nobleman. So he became more refined, but he was, considered ugly because of his hairy appearance. Eventually, King Henry's wife, Catherine de Medici, took over after the king died and found Gonsalves a wife of his own. And he, coincidentally, another woman named Catherine. So it took some getting used to for Catherine, the young Catherine. But eventually she fell in love with the beast. And they were married for 40 years, had 7 kids together, 4 of which also had hypertrichosis.
Wow.
hairy little kid. So that's the real story that inspired Beauty and the Beast. Now, realistically, what would happen if this was the case? So keep in mind it's the 1500s. You got this ugly looking fellow, but he is rich, and he does seem a little moody and bitter because of his her circumstances in life. But overall, I think he has a pretty good heart. And he has the resources to make Belle happy, so maybe it's not a bad deal for her. Keep in mind she's a well-read girl from a small French town in the mid-1700s. I said 1500s. It's the 1700s. So I feel like by today's standards, she definitely don't need no man, of course. But for that time, she's done pretty well for herself, I gotta say. Plus, this hairy beast actually seems to really love her. So what's the problem?
I know the problem. She's always portrayed as like this, like positive female figure, but she married a guy purely for his money. Like, let's be honest, he's not attractive. She married him purely for his money. He's rich, he's loaded, big castle, fits her whole family. She's able to get out of town because her father's like poor, can't get anything, can't get work. Yeah, she married him for his money. Yeah. She could, if she wanted to marry somebody for like their looks, like there was the Gaston guy,
Yeah.
Right.
But terrible personality, though.
Pardon?
Mm-hmm.
There's
he had a terrible personality.
Yeah, that's true. Because he's like the beast is like he gets angry in the movie and throws things.
He does.
Right. He has
he's a little moody.
Yeah. So it can't be the personality. She married him for his money. And then when the marriage was he was attractive because it's like, hey, I now see you for money.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think if we're to stay on the topic of that, drugs being either hallucinating or being high or something, I think it would make sense because then, because the guy is, so he's a beast, but after being high, all of a sudden the candles and all the tables started dancing.
Oh yeah,
remember?
All the other characters.
He was using drugs to cope with his looks, right? And then it made him moody. But when the girl came in his life, he stopped using drugs and became better looking. I don't know.
Or maybe it was like
He became more confident. He knew who he was.
maybe it's more like just like you're familiar with Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
He just
condition
captured
where
her and eventually.
it's a condition where when you're held captive, you begin to show appreciation and possibly affection for your captor. So you kind of like start to side with them because you can empathize or sympathize with them. And I don't know, maybe because she was kind of held captive in a way in the castle, like he wouldn't let her leave. And the townspeople did come to try to save her. So is it possible that she was, that it was kind of like a thing of like Stockholm syndrome, and maybe when everyone kind of turned into like this whole beautiful image, like maybe that's when like whatever drugs he was giving her kind of finally took hold.
Right.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
You guys are ruining the happy ending here.
Yeah. No one gets. Yeah. Yeah. I know Kojo tried to get the happy ending in there with Rapunzel, and we ended up like ruining it.
Well, I mean, like all these stories always end happily ever after. If not, we're not going to listen to it. So you still have to bring in some happy life, even though nothing really ends happy ever after.
That's true.
No. Well, we've already like.
But I was kind of surprised. Like there's a theme throughout a lot of these stories, as in, for instance, the Frog Prince, for instance, is similar to the Beauty and the Beast, and I'm wondering what exactly is going on that creates all these stories, as in, people looking like frogs and people looking like beasts with beautiful women.
It could be that the author was probably saw themselves as like unattractive, and they're trying to like rationalize to attractive women why they should date him. He's like, look, see, like Frog Prince. Yeah, I'm like the Frog Prince, but if you kiss me, I'll turn into an attractive guy.
Just want some love. That's all.
It's a pickup line as old as time.
I mean, I understand like the story basically saying like don't judge a book by the cover kind of a thing, but yeah,
doesn't work in today's society. Swipe left.
Well, I mean, you could use like AI to kind of create like filters that kind of make you look.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
pop up only filtered images.
So it's like the opposite of like the Frog Prince, where like you see the prince, and then you see them for who they really are, and then it's a frog. Actually, that'd be interesting. Like, what if you could like, you take a picture of a frog, and then you use AI to make it look like an attractive human, and then you use those images of like a frog AI version makes it look like an attractive human, and then people would just swipe right or left, or whatever the correct one is. And then when they go on dates, you just like bring this frog to the date. You'd be like, this is the frog. Can't you see the same green eyes? I want to try this. I'm gonna try this. Now I just have to be able to explain to my wife why I need Tinder. But
You're doing what?
You want to do what? No, this is a social experiment.
It's for research, for science. Did you ever see those? That's like they take Family Guy and Simpsons characters and do an AI of what they would look like in real life.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
It's pretty funny. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw one for South Park recently. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or like if a country was a person.
Oh,
there's so many cool AI. Yeah, that one's cool too.
Wow. Yeah.
Google that.
Let's get to the next one. So the next one is Hansel and Gretel.
Oh, nice. So
anyway, the story starts with Hansel and Gretel lived with their father and their stepmother. I'm recycling the stepmother theme, but this time in a different twist, because this time the stepmother came with an agenda, and the agenda was to get rid of the kids, and then the father, and eventually take the house because it's a beautiful house. It's a big, beautiful house. So anyway, he threatens the husband that if you don't let the kids leave, I'm gonna leave you. And so then the dads let the kids out on the street, and then the kids got stranded in the city. Crazy place. So the first few weeks, life was very bad. Like it was really bad for them. And through that, they, got into trouble. One of the things that they started doing was they started doing drugs. A guy came up to them and they're like, "Hey, I got some white stuff, Snow White." And so they got hooked on this drugs. They were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. We should have done this, to let our worries go away." Anyway, so they became addicted, and they spent all their money buying the drugs from this guy who took all their money. And then they needed money, so then they ended up picking up coins from telephone, when you put money in the telephone to make calls. That wasn't enough because they needed more money. So then they started breaking into cars, they get arrested, and then they got sent to jail. So here, life turned upside down. They were it was really bad for them in jail. But then they discovered the love for family, and so then they put their lives back together. And then when they were released, they decided to go back home and try and get their life in shape. But they arrived home, and still the stepmother would not allow the kids to live in their house. But then they begged the stepmother, and then she allowed them to stay for a day. As they were in the house, they realized something. Their dad was very sick. They're like, "What's going on?" And then they were very worried about what was happening to their dad. They started digging through things, and then they noticed that the mom had been feeding the dad some medication, which is getting the dad sick. At this time, the kids didn't know they had principal ownership to the house. But as they were looking around stuff, they came across a paper that had their names on it. So they were able to use that to get the mom arrested, including some of the things that they found in the house, that the mom was trying to kill their dad and then take the house. So they were able to get their life back in shape. So this is my version of Hansel and Gretel.
Happy ending.
Yeah, you went with the happy ending again.
Yeah, we have to.
No,
people need happy endings.
No, you did not follow the assignment.
Gotta go full darkness.
Yeah, just
there was some darkness in it. I didn't want to go too deep. I was like, "You guys are doing coke in the city. They're homeless. They go to jail.
Had cocaine in them. Some drugs.
Yeah. And then here, you have wayward kids getting their own house, saving their father. Rapunzel falls in love. No, that's not how that's supposed to be.
The true story was this girl was living with her dad, and then her dad met this woman. This woman convinced the dad to buy a house, which, was really huge. The dad put the child's name on the house. The lady didn't know. And then the lady started accusing this girl of all kinds of stuff. And then she, eventually spilled the beans that, this house belongs to me. So that's an actual true story.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this happened more than once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a third one, actually. This one's for The Lion King. So in The Lion King, Simba's father dies, which he's basically responsible for. So as a result of the death of his father that he is responsible for, he's traumatized by that whole situation. And Scar becomes his own pseudonym when he gets high with his buddies Timon and Pumbaa. And when he's like just blackout drunk, he ends up like destroying the kingdom and taking out his anger on all the other animals. And that's why like the whole kingdom kind of like descends into like chaos and despair.
Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like if you want to like put a happy ending on it, like I mean no one likes happy endings, but I guess like he goes into like rehab, because what's it like Lala, what's the girl cat's name? But she, like
Nala?
Yeah, that's the one. She she helps him like go through like drug recovery and like rehab and stuff like that, and ends up like, I don't know, I guess reconciling with
clean?
everybody. Yeah, he gets clean, yeah, and he like has to like
Nice.
make amends with the antelopes. Like, I'm sorry for killing you. Yeah.
Happy ending.
Yeah, because like the hyenas are all these like those like weird people like that are always like in drug dens and stuff like that. Those are all hyenas. Yeah, it's
Just
perfect. Yeah, he's a delinquent.
Just degenerates.
Yeah. Lion King. Yeah.
Fun fact: Lion King is based on Hamlet, right?
Oh, is it?
Is it really?
Shakespeare's Hamlet. Yeah. Evil uncle kills the king. Prince comes back with a vengeance, plans revenge. Hamlet.
But Hamlet dies in the end.
Something. He does. It's not a happy ending either.
Yeah, because there's
Something
a Lion
rotten
King too.
in the state of Denmark. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Lion
Who
King
wrote
based-
the original story?
Of Hamlet?
Shakespeare.
No, the Lion King.
Elton John.
Oh, I don't know.
The circle. I wonder how many people. I would like to know this. Like, how many people in the world have held up a cat or a dog like Simba in the Lion King, or babies? Like, just how many pets and small children have been held up like that?
Michael Jackson's kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. We at least know one example.
I'm reading. I just googled similarities in The Lion King and Hamlet. So Simba, like Hamlet, is a prince. His father, the king, is murdered by his uncle. Both the fathers appear as ghosts. Simba struggles with indecision, so does Hamlet. Simba and Hamlet are sent away by their uncle. And then finally, Simba, like Hamlet, return to the kingdom and kill their uncle, avenging their father's death. Yeah. Fun times.
Interesting.
Now you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Now you
interesting.
know.
I like my version
Alright.
better.
More modern.
Yeah.
It's a modern version. Okay. Fairy tales in real
Yes.
life.
One in the books.
One in the books. Follow us on the social medias. You know where to go. One of the popular ones. RaisedEyebrow.podcast. And remember, kids, life is not a fairy tale. If you lose your shoe at midnight, you're probably drunk.
That's a good one.